Chapter 1652. Lass, are you thinking of? Old man Song's voice tightened. No. This is too risky. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. Taking risks is to look forward to a better future. If she continued to passively accept the attacks and sneak attacks from the dark forces, she would definitely die. Sooner or later she would fall into the hands of the dark forces. She was never a passive person who was controlled by others. Why not seize the opportunity? Turning passivity into initiative. This hidden danger could be solved in one go. In the future everyone would be happy. Your current ability is not enough to go head-on with the dark forces. Old man Song admitted that Yi Qing Luo's thinking was right. However, such thoughts had to be based on reality. What kind of place was the underworld organization? Who are those people? That was a force that belonged to the lower realm outside of the upper realm. It was a power that had been expelled by the heavenly Tao. Based on Yi Qing Luo's current ability, if she were to go head-on against the dark forces, it was like using an egg to smash a rock. Old man Song, I understand your worries. Yi Qing Luo was very clear that this decision of hers was indeed a gamble with her life. If there were any accidents, it was very likely that she had died in the hands of the dark forces. But this is my only chance. The existence of the dark forces had always been a mystery. Even if it was a battle between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Organization, they had yet to find the real base of the dark forces. If Pharaoh he was still nearby and used the dark curse technique to completely control her, she decided to beat him at his own game. If she pretended to be obsessed with sex, she would allow Pharaoh he to bring her to the base camp of the dark forces. As long as he knew the exact location of the underground forces. Through the profound phoenix ring, she told Zhou Xian the exact location. Zhou Xian would be able to lead the Imperial Palace's disciples to attack the dark forces in one fell swoop. The dark forces had lost many people in the fire lair. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh he were also heavily injured. At this moment, it was the easiest time for the dark forces to be defeated. As long as there were no accidents, they would definitely be able to annihilate the dark forces. This was a method that would solve everything once and for all. Yi Qing Luo had to try. You're acting recklessly. Have you ever thought about your brothers? Have you ever thought about Zhou Xian? Old man Song knew that once Yi Qing Luo had decided on something, it would be hard to change her mind. His heart was burning with anxiety, but he didn't know how to stop Yi Qing Luo. He could only pull out that group of people from the world group and Zhou Xian. Yi Qing Luo's gaze became even more resolute. It's precisely because I hope that everyone can be safe and sound and live well, that I must think of a way to completely resolve this hidden danger. Every time she would be passively attacked by the dark forces. Time and time again she made the people around her risk their lives for her. She really didn't want to see such a thing happen again. Especially, she did not want to do something that she would regret for the rest of her life after being controlled by the mysterious Yin Qi. This time she was able to forcefully suppress the agitation of the mysterious Yin Qi. But what about next time? Could she still be so lucky? Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to bet on this unknown possibility. Instead of worrying and being afraid, it would be better to settle this once and for all. You. Old man Song let out a heavy sigh. This old man knew that you girl. In the end he still agreed. This old man more or less knows a little about dark spells. If you insist on taking the risk, this old man will help you. Yi Qing Luo's face was tainted with a smile. Immediately she focused and recalled Qi Yan and she drew back into the pet space. Chapter 1653. Yi Qing Luo's movements attracted the attention of the devil class's students. Long Yunzhan immediately flew over as his azure blue eyes were filled with worry. Qing Luo you. His words had just opened his mouth. An extremely piercingly cold wind brushed past his eyes. Yi Qing Luo's fingers were like claws as she struck towards Long Yunzhan's face. Long Yunzhan was stunned as he had yet to regain his senses. That palm had coincidentally landed on Long Yunzhan's chest. It directly sent Long Yunzhan flying with one palm strike. Devil class and the others who were following closely behind held on to Long Yunzhan as their faces were filled with astonishment. Qing Luo, what are you doing? Yi Qing Luo didn't reply them. Her clear and charming eyes were extremely icy cold. She looked at them coldly as her voice was hoarse and her words were unusually loud and clear. I want all of you to die. Long Yunzhan's face turned pale. Those devil class's students' expressions also changed. Has Qing Luo's mind been contaminated by the vermilion bird's raging flames? What's wrong with Qing Luo? Right from the start, I felt that Madame Qing Luo was a little strange. She even hit the class monitor. Her mind must have been contaminated. Devil classes students were filled with anxiety. Class monitor, what should we do? Vermilion bird is Madame Qing Luo's war pet. How can we awaken Madame Qing Luo? Long Yunzhan, who had been struck by that palm, kept staring at the expressionless Yi Qing Luo, who was filled with murderous intent. Suddenly his azure blue eyes flashed slightly. He raised his hand and stopped the devil classes students from asking questions. Long Yunzhan's prestige as the class monitor had not diminished because of Yi Qing Luo's existence. He had just raised his hand. The devil classes students who were whispering behind him immediately shut their mouths. Stay further away from her. Long Yunzhan's icy cold voice rang. Devil classes students were all stunned. Right now Yi Qing Luo obviously looked like something was wrong. Shouldn't they be thinking of ways to recall Yi Qing Luo's mind? Abandon Yi Qing Luo and stay further away from her? Wasn't this the meaning of abandoning Yi Qing Luo? Devil classes students frowned as they couldn't listen to Long Yunzhan's words and stay further away from Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's cold gaze swept past the group of students. Her pink lips curled up slightly. A cold arc blossomed on her face, revealing an extremely flirtatious yet murderous smile. Her palm wind moved, attacking towards Long Yunzhan's direction once again. Retreat. Long Yunzhan bellowed as he led the devil class students to retreat quickly. At this moment, the students from the various academies who had finished dealing with the remaining dark forces were stunned when they saw this scene. It wasn't easy for him to survive in the face of death. Why was it Yi Qing Luo being contaminated and losing her rationality again? Yi Qing Luo's attack was still continuing. But every time the devil classes students would coincidentally avoid it. After a few rounds of pursuit, Yi Qing Luo stopped her attacks. His cold eyes were filled with dense killing intent. Die, all of you, must die. That hoarse voice was extremely loud. The faces of the devil class students gradually turned pale. Listen to class monitor, let's leave this place first. Yan Xiaoyi took a look at Yi Qing Luo's chilly expression and looked at Long Yunzhan. She clenched her teeth, not knowing what was going on with Yi Qing Luo. It was better to listen to Long Yunzhan first and stay away from Yi Qing Luo. Otherwise, if Yi Qing Luo hurt any one of them, by the time Yi Qing Luo regained her consciousness, she would definitely be like Long Yunzhan. Continuing to feel guilty, devil classes students hesitated for some time. In the end, they still left Yi Qing Luo's boundary. Chapter 1654. Haha. Yi Qing Luo has already been controlled by us dark forces. If we can't live, then all of you can forget about living too. Yi Qing Luo, that pervert, she will absolutely avenge us dark forces, killing all of you bunch of young lads. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by someone you trust? Those few people from the dark forces who were still alive saw Yi Qing Luo's state, and all of them ran towards her direction as though they were escaping for their lives. Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade used a dark secret method to seal the profound yin qi. The entire dark forces knew about this matter. At this moment, seeing Yi Qing Luo actually laid her hands on their own brothers. They knew. This was absolutely because of the profound yin qi in Yi Qing Luo's body. That also meant that Yi Qing Luo was now one of them. With Yi Qing Luo, that pervert, around, this bunch of young lads would definitely die. But those few people from the dark forces had just dashed in front of Yi Qing Luo. They saw Yi Qing Luo's fingertips dancing. Like an excited spirit, a red glow flashed past her slender fingertips. The glower flame fan stirred up thousands of waves as it struck towards those few people from the dark forces. Those people had barely escaped from the siege of those students after experiencing a narrow escape from death. At this moment, all their thoughts were on Yi Qing Luo. Who would have expected that Yi Qing Luo would actually make a move against them? Those few people from the dark forces had yet to react. Bursts of powerful, profound energy had already landed on them. They were like numerous sharp blades that surged like the tide and devoured everything about them. They didn't even have time to make a sound. Those few people from the dark forces fell limply onto the ground. Blood spurted out and they lost their breath. The students stared at this scene as their faces alternated between green and white. They had clearly heard what the people from the Dark Coalition had just said. Yi Qing Luo had already been controlled by the dark forces? That meant to say, Yiqing Luo would kill them? But why did Yiqing Luo kill those people from the dark forces? Die. Die. All of you must die. That hoarse voice was monotonous and emotionless. Yiqing Luo's eyes didn't have any radiance. His eyes were empty and cold as he stared forward. Seemed like he had really lost his mind. The faces of the students turned paler and paler. He wanted to escape. But there was a barrier set up here. They had no way out. Qing Luo. Devil class's students were filled with worry as they stared at Yiqing Luo's expressionless face, feeling heartache. They were burning with anxiety. But there was no way to awaken Yiqing Luo's consciousness. What should they do? What should he do? You can't do anything to your own brothers even if you've already been controlled? Suddenly, a deep and cold voice filled with dense murderous intent was heard from Yiqing Luo's back. Just as the voice rang out, a figure appeared out of nowhere. That figure was extremely fast. Bringing along an extremely turbulent profound qi, he directly attacked in the direction of the devil class students. Then let me personally deal with this group of people. As his voice fell, devil class's students only felt a gust of cold wind brushing against their faces. Then a terrifying aura came crashing down from the sky. Oh no! Get out of the way! Chapter 1655. Yan Xiaoyi immediately activated the power of her profound jade heart. Releasing all of her profound energy, she opened up a protective barrier. Heh! A mere earth profound practitioner dares to block this sacred technique? Wolf Saint technique sneered disdainfully, not putting Yan Xiaoyi's protective barrier in his eyes. The movements of his hands didn't stop at all. Thick profound energy, swift and fierce attacks. Xiaoyi. A panicked voice reverberated through the earth. Immediately a figure was seen rushing over. Following that figure's sprint, the surrounding air suddenly, like flowing water, appeared with faint waves. Layer upon layer, slowly stacked higher. Just as Wolf Saint technique's attack fell. Boom! That turbulent air in a split second turned into a huge wave surging high up. The violent profound energy revealed a terrifying power that made one's heart tremble. Ah! With a scream, Wolf Saint technique spat out a mouthful of blood. His body, under that wave of air, flew backwards, landing heavily on the ground. Wolf Saint technique rolled a few times on the ground, finally crashing into a huge rock. The wound on his back that hadn't healed yet. And a new injury. Fresh blood instantly dyed the ground under Wolf Saint technique. But at this moment, no one paid attention to the direction of Wolf Saint technique. Everyone's gaze was focused on the devil class students. In front of the devil class students, a youth dressed in a green and white uniform, tightly hugging a slender girl. Both arms tightly wrapped around her waist. That muscular body slightly trembled. His entire body was emitting a terrifying aura. Who was that? Students from the devil class? The students of the various academies were filled with curiosity. And Yan Xiaoyi, who was tightly hugged at this moment, stiffened on the spot. Her body tensed up. Her breathing suddenly stopped. Between her nose lingered that familiar scent that made her about to cry. Xiaojin. Xiaojin. He's back. Back to her side. Both hands subconsciously wrapped around his waist. Bit by bit tightened. Until her body completely rubbed into his embrace. Are you stupid? Whenever I'm not by your side you do stupid things. However, this tenderness did not last for long. Yan Xiaoyi heard the man's angry voice. Xiaojin pried Yan Xiaoyi's body apart, his eyes filled with rage as he glared at her fiercely. Who do you think you are? An impregnable fortress? You're only at the earth profound realm and you want to use your own body to fight the Wolf Saint technique head-on? The more he spoke, the more furious his voice became. The slender fingers on Yan Xiaoyi's shoulder gradually increased their strength. Yan Xiaoyi furrowed her brows in pain as she sucked in a breath of cold air. This pain also caused Yan Xiaoyi's consciousness to gradually regain clarity. His rebuke. He heard it all. He felt that it was extremely ridiculous. Yan Xiaoyi's heart, which had been agitated because of Qiao Jin's return, gradually calmed down and calmed down. Qiao Jin did not return to her side. Qiao Jin did not belong to her. Closing her eyes, the expression on Yan Xiaoyi's face had already recovered its usual calmness. Whether I'm stupid or not and what I want to do has nothing to do with you. She looked up and met Qiao Jin's eyes. Maybe the timing of his appearance was too coincidental. Or maybe the current backlight was too coincidental. Qiao Jin's unprepossessing face was reflected in Yan Xiaoyi's pupils. He actually appeared to be extremely tall and handsome. That deep contour faintly revealed a suffocating handsomeness. She was stunned. Chapter 1656. After a while, Yan Xiaoyi retracted the absent-mindedness in her eyes. She despised herself in her heart. Even at this moment she still had feelings for Qiao Jin. Obviously, that face totally did not fit her aesthetic standards. Obviously, she had already decided from the bottom of her heart not to have feelings for him. But the moment she saw Qiao Jin, her heart that had been quiet for a long time, messed up, completely messed up. Ever since that day when Qiao Jin saw Shi Shanglan's investigation information, he was alone as though he had vanished from the face of the earth. He left just like that. Had he ever thought about her feelings? Had he ever thought about the feelings of the students in Devil class? Even in the flaming lair, such a dangerous place, he had never appeared. Until now when he finally appeared here. So sorry, Qiao Jin looked at that pair of calm beautiful eyes, and a dull pain surged from the bottom of his heart. His reprimanding expression, the anger in his eyes, suddenly disappeared. His hands froze. He quickly let go of Yan Xiaoyi's waist. Then he took a few steps back, widening the distance between them. When Qiao Jin's apology fell into Yan Xiaoyi's ears, it was like a sharp needle fiercely stabbing into her heart. He couldn't wait to leave her side, not daring to have any contact with her. It was more like he was mocking her feelings for him, mocking that she hadn't fallen for him. He was really a fool. A complete and utter fool. This man, he had never loved you from the start. Why bother? Really, why did you have to do this? Closing her eyes, she forced the tears that welled up in her eyes down. Yan Xiaoyi's breathing gradually calmed down. Following that, she opened her eyes again, her gaze calm. Why are you here? A large number of people from the dark forces are already rushing towards this direction. I followed the overlord here. Qiao Jin clenched his fists, trying his best to make his voice sound calm. He couldn't show a little. His heart ached because of Yan Xiaoyi's coldness. Yan Xiaoyi's alienation towards him. Wasn't this the result he wanted? He took a deep breath softly. Let's leave the flaming lair first. Not only this place, there are arrays set up, the entire flaming lair has signs of arrays. Dizun. Yan Xiaoyi's eyes lit up. Now was not the time to worry about love affairs. Yiqing Luo had yet to regain her senses. The overlord was here and he would definitely be able to awaken Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi raised her hand and pushed Qiao Jin away. His gaze swept across the surroundings. Sure enough, they saw a man in shimmering purple clothes, who looked like a banished immortal, walking over quickly. Damo Xian was extremely fast. Without any pause, he headed straight towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But before he was able to stretch out his hand and pull Yiqing Luo into his embrace, when he met with Yiqing Luo's chilly eyes, his footsteps slowly came to a halt. He and Yiqing Luo stood face to face. Their eyes met. No one spoke. Master Dizun. Qing Luo has lost her senses and only you can wake her up. Yan Xiaoyi said anxiously. The following words were stuck in his throat. She saw that behind Damo Xian, there was a jade-green figure following closely behind. When times, Feng Ling was actually following beside Damo Xian? Recalling that not long ago, this Feng Ling brought along the Imperial Palace's granny to kill Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi was extremely hostile towards Feng Ling. The enchantment here, only Feng Ling can break it. Damo Xian's gaze was still on Yiqing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi blinked. The overlord was explaining to her. Chapter 1657. Hearing that extremely calm explanation, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. The cold glint in her eyes wavered for a moment. By her ears, Damo Xian's explanation seemed to be reverberating. He directly called Feng Ling by her name. It wasn't like before calling her Xiao Ling intimately. Was it because the reason why the Imperial Palace's granny wanted to kill her? This sweet throbbing didn't last for too long. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly thumped. Xian he. Why was he here? He was here. Would he stop her plan? Xian definitely wouldn't bear for her to take the risk. If he knew her decision, he would definitely stop her. No. No way, she couldn't let Xian see her abnormality. Overlord, those unimportant people are not important. What's important is... Yan Xiaoyi's vision returned to Yi Qingluo. The dark forces said that Qingluo had already been controlled by the dark forces. If we don't wake her up, we won't be able to control her. Hearing Yan Xiaoyi's anxious words, Yi Qingluo had a feeling of King that husky. She wanted to cry but no tears came out. She knew that Yan Xiaoyi was worried about her. Worried from the bottom of her bones. But could she not let Zhou Xian put his attention on her at this moment? She couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. Just at this moment Gui Wu Zhou Mo and 100 over elders from the main academy rushed over. Seeing the bloody scene and the various academy's students covered in blood, they all had a fright. Momentarily the entire blazing flame nest fell into chaos. This was the chance. Yi Qingluo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep look at Zhou Xian's direction. Suddenly she turned around and leapt. That slender figure swiftly merged into the air and disappeared. Devil class's students chased up to her. Madam Qingluo, you won't be able to catch up. Stay here and cooperate with the main academy's investigation. Zhou Xian's long peach blossom eyes squinted slightly. A chilly intent flashed in his eyes. I'll go. His words had just ended when his sleeve was tugged by someone. Fengling's timid face appeared in his eyes. Brother Di. Her words had yet to leave her mouth. Zhou Xian had already flung Fengling's hand away in extreme disgust. There was a cold glint in his eyes. Fengling, there are many things that I don't say, but it doesn't mean that I don't know. Your aura is on the dark forces barrier. You were the one who set it up. Windling's face turned pale. Her delicate body trembled slightly. Beiyuan. Zhou Xian's voice was tense and cold. A black figure appeared from the darkness. Tang Beiyuan stood respectfully beside Zhou Xian. Bring Fengling back to the Imperial Palace and guard her strictly. Without my orders, no one is allowed to get close to her. Zhou Xian said coldly. After a pause, his gaze turned slightly cold. Including Grandma. Yes. Tang Bian's expression was cold and stern. Once he said that one word, he suddenly brought out a chain from his sleeves, and without another word he bound Fengling tightly. Those were profound ice shackles. It was a chain made of indestructible ice. There was no way to untie this chain at all. Fengling immediately panicked. With a sobbing tone she shouted pitifully, Brother D. But Tang Beiyuan didn't give Fengling a chance to continue speaking. Holding the end of the chain, she hung Fengling and flew out of the blazing flame nest. Chapter 1658. Yi Qingluo's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment she was already at least 1,000 meters away from that area. She concealed her presence and stopped in her tracks. She knew that Zhou Xian would definitely chase up to her. She had to get Pharaoh He to bring her to the Dark Forces main camp before Zhou Xian chased up to her. Her guess was indeed right. Pharaoh He and Wolf Saint Technique had just used the Dark Curse to escape from her line of sight. But they didn't go far. Wolf Saint Technique's coincidental appearance confirmed her guess. She pretended to be controlled by the profound Yin Qi and lost her mind. She intentionally made a move on the Devil class's students. It was to let Pharaoh He, who was hiding in the dark, know that she was indeed controlled by the profound Yin Qi. Earlier, Wolf Saint Technique's appearance. It was probably to test her. If she wasn't affected by the profound Yin Qi, she definitely wouldn't let Wolf Saint Technique hurt the Devil class's students. If she stopped it, Pharaoh He would definitely use the same curse to bring Wolf Saint Technique away. Luckily, Zhou Xian and Gui Wu rushed over in time. Before she made a move, they stopped Wolf Saint Technique's attack. This was considered as God approving of her plan. Yi Qingluo released her senses to the maximum as she carefully sensed the movements in the surroundings. She remembered. The direction where Pharaoh He used his curse to bring Wolf Saint Technique away was this direction. Earlier, after Wolf Saint Technique was sent flying by Qiaojin, he took the opportunity to escape in this direction. The people from the Dark Forces were definitely here. In the dark, two pairs of eyes were staring unblinkingly at Yi Qingluo, who was wandering around in the dense forest. Wolf Saint Technique's face was extremely pale due to excessive blood loss. Yi Qingluo, that little slut is sinister and cunning, are you sure? She is really controlled by your Pharaoh's secret technique? Pharaoh He shot a disdainful glance at Wolf Saint Technique. Of course. The secret technique which I used was personally imparted by his lordship. There's absolutely no possibility of any accident. Heh. Isn't the spirit assimilating array still destroyed? Wolf Saint technique snorted in disdain. Pharaoh, his face sunk. This pharaoh will make you convinced. Saying that, he gathered his mental power and formed a hand seal as he stared at Yiqing Luo's figure, spitting out one obscure curse after another. There's movement. The minute Pharaoh his mental energy appeared, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed the fluctuation in the air. Her expression instantly turned solemn. Just as he was thinking of following the ripples in the air to search for Pharaoh his location, Old Man Tsong's voice immediately sounded in her mind. Lass, Pharaoh he is testing you. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she searched for the fluctuation in the air and stopped her counter-detection of Pharaoh he's position. Maintain your murderous state and be a bit crazier. Old Man Tsong reminded. Yiqing Luo's reaction was extremely quick. Pharaoh he was hiding in the dark and wanted to use a secret technique to test if her profound heart jade had really been contaminated by the profound yin qi. She stopped in her tracks. His entire body suddenly released an extremely strong murderous aura. A pair of murderous eyes fiercely swept across the surroundings. She raised her hands, clenched fists and swung at the air. It seemed extremely crazy. Kill. I want to kill him. Kill all of you. Kill all of you. Yiqing Luo was like a headless fly spinning crazily on the same spot. Pharaoh he who was in the dark saw Yiqing Luo's crazy performance and glanced at Wolf Saint technique complacently. How is it? Are you convinced? Wolf Saint technique pursed his lips tightly. Chapter 1659. Yiqing Luo's heart was on the verge of collapsing. In order to sneak into the dark forces, she really put in a lot of effort. She could even act the role of a crazy lady. This acting skill was comparable to those movie queens. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but praise herself. Just as Yiqing Luo was cursing in her heart, her face was still maintaining a crazy state. Suddenly her ears twitched. Her heart constricted. It was Zhou Xian. He had indeed caught up. Damn Pharaoh he. Where on earth were they hiding at? She had already acted so well but still refused to show herself. If Xian discovered her, her plan to sneak into the dark forces would fail. Perhaps the heavens had heard Yiqing Luo's wailing. Or perhaps Pharaoh he had also sensed Xian's approach. Just as Xian's presence was getting closer, Yiqing Luo only felt her body being sucked towards a direction by an extremely strong suction force. Following that, she was grabbed tightly by a strong palm. A thick and nauseating profound yin qi lingered around her nose. Yiqing Luo's eyes shone. It was Pharaoh he. You really pulled this slut over. Wolf Saint Magic's tone didn't conceal his disgust towards Yiqing Luo. Pharaoh he slanted a glance at him sarcastically. Only trash like you would worry about this and that. This Pharaoh's secret method has never failed before. The Holy Wolf technique was just lip service. In his heart he already believed it a little. He moved his mouth and finally spat out a few words. Let's go back. Pharaoh he didn't continue arguing with Wolf Saint Magic. His fingers formed a hand seal as he swiftly recited a string of incantations. Yiqing Luo's forelimbs were weak as she hung on Pharaoh he's hand. She suddenly felt her body shaking violently. Her vision turned black. When there was light again, Yiqing Luo discovered that she was already at the entrance of a huge palace. At the entrance of the palace, two guards dressed in black cloaks immediately bowed respectfully when they saw them. Wolf Saint Magic, Pharaoh he. And they had just returned to the Dark Force's old nest. Pharaoh he casually threw the heavily injured Wolf Saint Law to the ground. The two dark guards had long been accustomed to the open and secret fights between the Pharaoh and the elders. One of them stepped forward and helped the wolf up. Go get a doctor. Wolf Saint Law was quickly carried away. Whereas Yiqing Luo was dragged by Pharaoh he as they walked directly into this luxurious palace. As one of the 4 great pharaohs of the Dark Faction, Pharaoh he enjoyed great prestige in the Dark Faction. Along the way they greeted Pharaoh Crane respectfully. No one even placed their sights on Yiqing Luo. After walking for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they finally stopped in front of a courtyard. Yiqing Luo looked at the signboard on the courtyard. A row of words were outlined in black light. Crane Palace. Crane Palace? In other words, this was Pharaoh he's palace? Yiqing Luo's vision had memorized all the details of the palace's surroundings into her mind. Perhaps it was because he was too confident in his secret technique. Pharaoh he didn't doubt Yiqing Luo at all. He shut Yiqing Luo in a secluded little room in the Crane Palace and used a curse to lock the door tightly before leaving in a hurry. Dark Forces territory, Yiqing Luo didn't dare to let her guard down just because Pharaoh he had left. Who knew if Pharaoh he was trying to test her again? Yiqing Luo had been on high alert, maintaining the state of being controlled by him. Her nerves were stretched taut, not daring to relax. Chapter 1660. Yiqing Luo calculated the time in her heart. Close to 6 hours had passed. It should be nighttime now. She didn't know if it was because of the curse that Pharaoh he had set on the door. Not a single sound could be heard from the surroundings of this small room. The surrounding was so quiet that it was a little scary. Yiqing Luo had been maintaining a battle state in the blazing flame nest for this period of time. Yiqing Luo was already mentally exhausted. After a long time, Yiqing Luo felt her eyelids getting heavier. Not long after, she fell into a deep sleep. But after Yiqing Luo fell into a deep sleep, it was just a few breaths' time. Only to see the tightly shut door slowly opening. The person who entered the room was an extremely beautiful lady. That lady's vision was immediately fixed on the young lady's face who was sitting by the bed with her eyes closed. After seeing the young lady's stunning face clearly, the lady's pupils shot out a biting cold hatred. Yiqing Luo. Adai, don't hurt my puppet. Pharaoh he followed closely behind and stood in front of the beautiful lady. He held the lady's soft and fair hand as he stared fiercely at the person at the door. Lang Wastrel, it's said that this old man's secret art will absolutely not have any problems. Why must you waste my knockout drug? You only know how to be suspicious all day, no wonder you're unable to break through to the profound grade. Wolf Saint Magic sat on a wooden wheeled chair and behind him was a black-robed, slightly pale-looking Yiqing Qian. Wolf Saint Magic entered the room and his gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. After ascertaining that Yiqing Luo had indeed fallen into a deep sleep, Wolf Saint Magic then raised his malicious eyes and looked coldly at Pharaoh he. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's because of your arrogance that led to the failure of this mission. Isn't the failure all because of you? Pharaoh he harumphed coldly. If it wasn't for that troublemaker, how would the spirit assimilation array be destroyed? Yiqing Qian was criticized and her body shrank slightly as she lowered her eyelids, not daring to say a word. Wolf Saint Magic patted the back of her hand lightly as his gaze turned cold. The spirit assimilation array was destroyed because there's a problem with your elder's ability. Just one Yiqing Luo completely messed up the plan which we had prepared for several months, You. Pharaoh he was exasperated. He raised his hand and was about to rush forward to beat the Wolf Saint technique. Alright. How old are the two of you? Every time you see each other you won't let go. Are we still going to talk about business? The butterfly saintess couldn't take it anymore. She frowned and her beautiful face was filled with annoyance. The butterfly sacred technique shook off Pharaoh he's hand and walked out of the room while swaying her slender waist. Pharaoh he fiercely glared at Holy Wolf, then immediately put on a smile and followed behind Holy Butterfly. Good. Adai, I won't argue with that old man. Let's talk business. Wolf Saint Technique who was still in the room narrowed his malicious eyes as his gaze stopped on Yiqing Luo for some time. He then lightly patted her hand. Let's go. Yiqing Qian responded obediently. As she pushed the Wolf Saint Technique away, Yiqing Qian glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo's direction. In her beautiful eyes, there was a trace of hatred and ruthlessness. He pushed the Holy Wolf out of the room. The door slowly closed again. In the room it was silent once again. After a moment of silence, the young lady who was originally leaning against the side of the bed and in deep sleep, her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Tightly she opened her eyes. Chapter 1661. Yiqing Luo herself was an alchemist. She was extremely sensitive towards the smell of medicinal herbs. The moment the drowsiness hit her, Yiqing Luo realized that someone had drugged her. Hence she beat them at their own game and pretended to fall asleep. From Wolf Saint Dharma and Pharaoh he's words. They must have something important to deal with. Or perhaps they needed to discuss. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to drug her who was already controlled by him. There were at least 5 people who entered the room. She heard Wolf Saint Dharma and Pharaoh he's voices. And one Butterfly Saint Dharma. And one Yiqing Jian. And the last person. Who was he? From the start till the end, That person had not spoken a single word. She remained silent for some time as she sensed that there wasn't any fluctuation in the surrounding air. She then quietly got up and slowly walked to the door. The last people to leave were Wolf Saint Dharma and Yiqing Jian. There wasn't any incantation on this room door. Yiqing Luo easily opened the room door. What entered her eyes was an extremely dark long corridor. A few voices were heard from the next room. Yiqing Luo looked around to ascertain that there wasn't anyone guarding this long corridor. She silently recited the secret method which she had memorized in her heart. Her figure flashed in a blink of an eye. She had already silently appeared at the door of the next room. This was a blink movement secret method. It was extremely different from her own footwork. Blink movement secret method could achieve instantaneous movement under the condition of no aura fluctuation. And her set of footwork relied on one word: fast. The faster her footwork, the more violent the turbulence in the air. The group of people in the next room were all well-known figures from the dark forces. Any fluctuation in the air was unable to escape their senses. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to take the risk. Using the blink movement secret method, as long as the timing was stable, no one would discover it. Then no one would discover it. Nearing the door, she could clearly hear Wolf Saint Dharma's angry voice coming from the room. "He trash, this plan was planned by me and that Heavenly Academy's trash director 2 months ago. For this plan, how much manpower and resources have I wasted? My Wolf Saint Dharma's forces have been annihilated." Wolf Saint Dharma slammed the table heavily. "This is a foolproof plan. If it succeeds, we can escape completely. If it wasn't for the fact that your elders' party was so useless and couldn't even protect a formation, would this plan have failed? Do you still want to push all the blame to me? Useless Crane, let me tell you, the failure of the plan is a problem of your elders' society's ability. It has nothing to do with me." Bang bang bang. There was the sound of things being rummaged through. Yiqing Luo made use of that explosion and her fingers moved slightly opening that tightly shut window. Through the gap, Yiqing Luo saw Pharaoh. He overturned the table and pointed angrily at the Wolf Saint technique. "This Pharaoh has exhausted all my energy to save you from Yiqing Luo's hands. Don't you dare to push all the blame for the failure of the plan on this Pharaoh." Lang Xingfa's face instantly turned ashen. His sinister eyes stared coldly at Pharaoh. His eyes filled with killing intent. "Help." This word completely provoked the Wolf Saint technique. Especially to save him from that slut Yiqing Luo. Wasn't this indirectly saying that he wasn't even comparable to that silly lass Yiqing Luo? Chapter 1662. Pharaoh. He had specially emphasized the words 15 years old. Wolf Saint Magic's face darkened. His 5 fingers clenched the armrest of the wooden wheelchair, leaving a long mark. "Pharaoh, you're wrong." Yiqing Qian couldn't bear to see her lover get angry, so she caressed Wolf Saint Magic's chest and raised her beautiful eyes to look at Pharaoh. The moment she opened her mouth, Pharaoh stared at her in disgust. "Who do you think you are? Just a slut who relies on spreading her legs to climb up. This Pharaoh and Saint Magic are talking. Do you have the right to interrupt?" Saying that, he glanced at Wolf Saint Magic scornfully. "You've been in the Dark Forces for such a long time, yet you still don't know the Dark Forces rules. This Pharaoh wants to see how long you can protect her." Yiqing Qian pursed her red lips as she lowered her head with reddened eyes. Wolf Saint Magic frowned and reached out to hold Yiqing Qian's hand. "He trash, do you only know how to shoot at women now? Enough. Both of you shut up." The beautiful lady sitting in the corner stood up irritably, quarreling over and over again. "Just a few words, is there any meaning in quarreling? Adai, don't be angry, I won't talk anymore." Pharaoh. He immediately came forward attentively. Butterfly Saint Magic glanced coldly at Pharaoh. Then looked at Wolf Saint Magic. "His lordship's seal is only lacking the last 2 hurdles before the seal can be completely lifted." Speaking of his lordship, the flames between Wolf Saint Magic and Pharaoh were restrained. This time the plan to absorb a large number of souls has failed. The day of his lordship's lifting will be delayed for a period of time. Butterfly Saint Magic's words made the room fall into silence. This failure was not only about not being able to obtain a large number of souls. It had also completely exposed the Dark Forces' motive in Nirvana Realm. Nirvana Realm would also raise their vigilance and think of ways to resist the Dark Forces' attack. It would not be as easy as before for them to obtain a large number of clean souls of young cultivators. No matter which one of you wants to get away or push the blame to someone, when his lordship regains consciousness, you will all accept his lordship's punishment. The butterfly saint technique looked at the two of them. So it's useless for the two of you to push the blame to each other. Pharaoh he nodded repeatedly and answered yes. Anyone could tell that he was interested in the sacred butterfly technique from his attentive manner. The wolf saint lowered his head and did not refute. He did not refute, which meant that he agreed with the butterfly saint technique. Instead of debating whether it's right or wrong, why don't we carefully think about the cause and effect? Think clearly about why the soul assimilating formation failed. Suddenly, a clear voice that was as gentle as the wind resounded in the room. That voice entered Yiqing Luo's ears. Yiqing Luo's body instantly stiffened. A trace of astonishment flashed through her eyes. She focused her gaze and looked through the gap again, searching for the figure of the person who spoke. Sure enough, beside the sacred butterfly technique sat a man in a brown robe woven with gold. The man's face was like jade and the corners of his mouth hooked into a cordial smile. He looked very much like a graceful young master. That face. Yiqing Luo was no stranger to it. Shi clan's young master Shi Xianxia. Yan Shaoyi's fiancé. It was actually him. He was indeed related to the dark forces. He got close to Yan Shaoyi indeed with ill intentions. Earlier in the room where she was locked up, the fifth person that she sensed was Shi Xianxia. What was the relationship between him and the dark forces? Chapter 1663. Young Master, she is right. Rather than arguing about right or wrong, why don't we find out the reason why our plan failed? The anger on Butterfly Saint Mage's face was immediately replaced by a smile. Her eyes were filled with affection as she looked at Shi Xianxia coquettishly. But Shi Xianxia didn't show any signs of being moved by her goodwill. Shi Xianxia's face was still gentle like water. The smile on his lips was distant but not impolite. Pharaoh he's face sunk slightly and revealed some displeasure. But he didn't flare up like how he did with Wolf Saint Mage. Instead he suppressed his anger and echoed Shi Xianxia's words. Young Master, she's words are reasonable. I can't be bothered to argue with that old man. This scene made Yiqing Luo, who was hiding in the corner to eavesdrop, felt slightly surprised. Weren't the dark forces divided into two factions? The Lord, who was also the King of Darkness, was the leader. Then there was the Guardian and Elder factions. Above the Guardian and Elder factions were the Saint Mage and Pharaoh. Yiqing Luo could see clearly how arrogant Pharaoh he was in the dark forces. Could be said that Pharaoh he was second only to one and above everyone else in the dark forces. His attitude toward Shi Xianxia was obviously respectful. Pharaoh he admired Butterfly Saint Mage. And Butterfly Saint Mage gave such an obvious, suggestive look to Shi Xianxia. Pharaoh he was actually indifferent. It showed that Pharaoh he didn't dare to become enemies with Shi Xianxia. What was Shi Xianxia's identity? Even Pharaoh he was afraid of him. The atmosphere in the house eased up a lot because of Shi Xianxia's words. Wolf Saint Mage remained silent for a long time before he spoke. Speaking of the reason why we failed, it made me think of something. His sinister eyes looked at Pharaoh he. Trash he, do you still remember what you swore when you set up the soul assimilation array? Old Wolf, do you still want to quarrel with me? Pharaoh he's face turned cold as he stared back at Wolf Saint Mage angrily. The Wolf Xianxia looked at him and said indifferently, you said that once the soul assimilating array is set up, no one in the Nirvana realm can destroy the formation eye of the soul assimilating array. So our people don't need to specially guard the formation eye. Otherwise, the location of the formation eye will be exposed. F***ck. Wolf trash. Do you have to F***king go against me? Come on. I'll accompany you. Pharaoh he rushed toward the Wolf Saint Law furiously. He stop right now. The butterfly sacred technique reached out and grabbed Pharaoh Crane's collar, forcefully pulling him into the chair. You are not allowed to speak without my permission. Pharaoh Crane's face turned red. But looking at the serious expression on the butterfly saint technique's face, he could not help but shut his mouth. The butterfly sacred technique looked at the wolf sacred technique. He is right. The soul assimilating array is an ancient dark secret technique. A sinister technique that is not tolerated by the heavenly Tao. In a lower realm like the Nirvana realm, no one would know the method to destroy the array. She pondered for a moment and a cold glint appeared in her beautiful eyes. Even if we find the eye of the formation, no one knows how to destroy it. What Wolf Saint technique means is, There are people from the lower realm helping Yiqing Luo. Xianxia could tell what Wolf Saint technique was implying. As soon as these words came out, the four of them exchanged glances and their faces instantly turned pale. Indeed, if there were no people from the lower realm helping Yiqing Luo, how would Yiqing Luo know how to use the blood of the caster to extinguish the array eye? If it wasn't for the fact that the people from the lower realm had told Yiqing Luo the method to destroy the array, how was it possible for Yiqing Luo to destroy this array so easily? Chapter 1664. Xianxia's expression instantly turned grave. His handsome brows frowned slightly. If there's no one from the lower realm to teach her, she shouldn't be able to find the location of the array eye. He paused for a moment as his gentle eyes swept past the few people in the room. That gaze was as gentle as the wind. However, the few of them felt an extremely cold glint in their eyes. That kind of chill that emanated from the bones. It made the few of them feel a thump in their hearts. Wolf Saint Law's concerns I will personally investigate clearly. If there's really someone from the lower realm around Yiqing Luo, I will return to the island and invite father to leave the island. Upon hearing Xianxia's words, their faces instantly revealed a joyous expression. With young Master Shi's help, this matter will definitely be settled very quickly. Butterfly Saint Law's eyes were filled with affection and admiration. Pharaoh he looked at Butterfly Saint Law's expression and shifted his gaze away unhappily. He clenched his fists and eased the tense expression on his face as he gave a flattering smile. Yes, young Master Shi is willing to help. Next time, our plan will definitely succeed. Butterfly Saint Law snorted lightly as her tone couldn't conceal her disgust. Yiqing Luo, that little slut. The speed of her advancement is so fast, it must be because of the person behind her. As long as we get rid of that person, what kind of waves can that little slut create? The few of them complimented again. Yiqing Luo, who was squatting at the corner, frowned tightly. Xianxia addressed himself as young master earlier. What young master was referring to? The reason why these few dark forces leaders were so respectful towards Xianxia. It was probably because of the father behind Xianxia. What was Xianxia's identity? Just as Yiqing Luo was deep in thought. In the room, Yiqing Jian, who had been silent all this while, opened her mouth softly. What if the person behind Yiqing Luo is Zhou Xian? The few people's compliments stopped abruptly. Several pairs of eyes turned towards Yiqing Jian in unison. Wolf Saint Law also glanced sideways at Yiqing Jian, who was standing beside him, as he frowned, as though he was annoyed with her for opening her mouth. Yiqing Qian faced their gazes and her expression remained unchanged. Her red lips curled upwards as a smile curled up as she spoke in a warm voice. Rumor has it that Yiqing Luo and Zhou Xian from the Imperial Palace have an intimate relationship. This point I have indeed witnessed it with my own eyes. After a pause, she was satisfied to see the deep meaning in everyone's eyes. She then continued, originally my fourth sister had already dug away Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade, completely turning her into a waste. But unfortunately, on the day that her profound heart jade was dug out, she turned from a waste into a cultivator. Not only did she force me to retreat, even that father of mine, Three Springs Sect's patriarch, wasn't Yiqing Luo's opponent. Later on, I asked Wuxia about what happened that day. What's the matter? Butterfly Saint technique couldn't stand Yiqing Qian's purposely keeping them in suspense as she urged. Yiqing Qian paused after each word. That day, Yiqing Luo's profound heart jade was dug out and she was forced to drink a strong medicinal soup. In the process of rebelling against Wuxia, she seized Zhou Xian. Take Zhou Xian hostage? How could this be? In this world, only their lord had this ability. Who could hold Zhou Xian hostage? Chapter 1665. Xianxia pondered for a moment, then slowly nodded. He recalled that after the interclass competition in the Heavenly Academy, when Yiqing Luo came to the Shi family's courtyard, there was a man who followed beside her. A man with a strong sense of presence. It should be Zhou Xian. Other than Zhou Xian, no one else had such a strong aura. That person was really Zhou Xian. In addition, the Imperial Palace had been attacking the dark forces during this period of time. Yiqing Qian's words, 90%. Were right. Everyone could see that. How much did Zhou Xian care about Yiqing Luo? I will return to the island first to investigate this matter. Xianxia's expression was solemn. He stood up and cupped his fists at the few people. The few of them immediately stood up and sent Xianxia to the door. Yiqing Luo, who was at the door, immediately used her blink and returned to the room where she was locked up in the moment Xianxia stood up. The sound of footsteps could be heard outside the door. Soon after, the footsteps gradually faded away. They should have sent him out of the Crane Palace. Soon after, the footsteps of a few people gradually approached. Yiqing Luo leaned against the side of the bed and continued to pretend to be asleep. He could clearly hear a few people grumbling outside the door. They were all silently scolding Xianxia for using his power to bully others. After grumbling for a while, the few of them passed by the room where Yiqing Luo was locked up. Pharaoh He's footsteps suddenly paused. Although the mission this time has failed, this pharaoh has brought back Yiqing Luo, this profound heart jade's vessel. I believe that it can also remove the Lord over God's seal in advance. Wolf Saint Technique scoffed lightly. Even if we make use of Yiqing Luo's vessel physique to transfer profound energy to the Overlord God in advance, but to remove the seal, we still need a young and clean young man's spirit. As long as the Lord Master God's profound strength is replenished, he can temporarily wake up. When the time comes, we will naturally listen to our Lord's arrangements and proceed with the next step of the plan. Pharaoh He glanced at him coldly. What? Seeing that I, the Pharaoh, can make up for my mistakes, you feel unbalanced? We're all working for the Lord. What's the difference between you and me? The butterfly sacred technique couldn't take it anymore and interrupted their argument. Ahi, your idea isn't bad. If we can make the Lord God awake for a short while, we'll be able to get instructions for our future actions. When Pharaoh Crane received the sacred butterfly technique's praise, he immediately went forward. Adai also thinks that my method is good, right? Alright, I'll bring Yiqing Luo, that slut, to the dark sacred region now to awaken the Overlord. As he spoke, Pharaoh Crane pushed open the tightly shut door. Yiqing Luo's heart twitched violently. Darkness Sanctum? What is that place? She heard Pharaoh Crane's approaching footsteps. She could also smell the auras of those people who were already close to her. Yiqing Luo calmed her breathing. She felt a hand reaching out to her. Suddenly, the Wolf Saint Law's voice came from the door again. The Darkness Sanctuary is the place where his lordship is sealed. Are you sure? It's safe to bring her there? Even now you still doubt my secret technique? Pharaoh He was clearly enraged. Yiqing Luo's profound jade heart had already been completely contaminated by the profound Yin Qi. Under his secret technique, there was no way for her to regain her senses. The Wolf Saint Law had repeatedly doubted if Yiqing Luo was really controlled by Lao AI. Wasn't this questioning his ability? Chapter 1666. Pharaoh He swiftly conjured a hand seal. One by one, complicated incantations were spat out from his mouth. Oh no, was he testing her again? She wasn't under Pharaoh He's control. How would she know what order Pharaoh He had given her? Yiqing Luo immediately called out to Old Man Song in her heart. Last quick. Get up and kill Wolf Saint Technique. Old Man Song's reminder rang in her mind. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Following Old Man Song's instructions, her figure suddenly moved and sprinted towards Wolf Saint Technique's direction. Her palms flipped and her palm chi was like a rainbow. Slut. Wolf Saint Technique's expression changed drastically as he raised his sleeves and waved out a burst of profound Yin Qi. Yiqing Luo's figure paused as she slowly raised her head. A pair of charming eyes, empty and cold without a single bit of emotion. Her pink lips trembled slightly. After a while she spat out a hoarse but exceptionally clear word, kill. Following that, Yiqing Luo wasn't afraid of death as she faced the profound Yin Qi of the Wolf Saint Technique and once again attacked towards the direction of the Wolf Saint Technique. Enough. Enough. Wolf Saint Technique believes that Yiqing Luo has been controlled by Tao Wu. Quickly stop. Yiqing Qian saw that Yiqing Luo was about to rush over. Her eyes flashed and suddenly rushed to the front of Wolf Saint Technique's wooden wheelchair, helping Wolf Saint Technique to block Yiqing Luo's attack. Pfft. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yiqing Qian's mouth. Her body went limp as she fell into Wolf Saint Technique's arms. Behind her, Yiqing Luo looked at Wolf Saint Technique expressionlessly, her gaze filled with murderous intent. Kill. Kill. Her body stiffened as she approached Wolf Saint Technique once again. Wolf Saint Technique hugged the injured lady in his arms tightly, his face ashen. Enough. I believe you. Pharaoh He delightedly cancelled his finger gesture and waved at Yiqing Luo. All right, come back. Yiqing Luo's attack stopped abruptly. She immediately turned around and walked to Pharaoh He's side as she stood upright. Now I'll take her to the darkness sacred region. Do you still have any objections? Pharaoh He looked at Holy Wolf's ashen face and was secretly pleased. No problem, no problem. I know that no one can surpass your secret skill except for his lord. Seeing that the flames of war between the two were about to ignite again, the butterfly sacred technique immediately stepped forward and patted Pharaoh He's shoulder. Pharaoh Crane's face was filled with pride after obtaining the goddess' approval. However, Lang Xingfa's expression grew increasingly ugly. He raised his eyes. His sinister eyes were filled with a treacherous cold light. It was as if he wanted to teach Pharaoh He a lesson. Butterfly Saint Technique was well aware of Yiqing Qian's position in Wolf Saint Technique's heart. She immediately pulled Pharaoh He's arm and said softly, I'll accompany you to bring Yiqing Luo to the dark sacred region. With the company of a goddess. Naturally, Pharaoh Crane was overjoyed. Calling out to Yiqing Luo, he happily followed behind the Butterfly Saint Technique and left the room. Wolf Xingfa's face darkened as he lowered his head to look at the pale-faced woman lying feebly in his arms. There was a vicious look in his eyes. His slender fingers clasped Yiqing Qian's lower jaw tightly. In front of this saint technique you occasionally play some little tricks. This saint technique pampers you and allows you to do as you please, but... His eyes turned cold. His fingers suddenly relaxed as he gently caressed her seductive face. The vicious look in his eyes became extremely thick at this moment. But if you dare to use your own body as a bargaining chip to please me, I will personally destroy this body of yours. Yiqing Qian's petite body trembled slightly. A sliver of disbelief surfaced on her pale face. This sentence sounded like he was concerned about her body. He couldn't bear for her to get injured just to block his attack. But... Chapter 1667. Along the way, Yiqing Luo maintained her robot state, obediently following behind Pharaoh Crane. Pharaoh He's entire heart was placed on the Butterfly Saint Technique, so he had no time to bother about Yiqing Luo. As for Butterfly Saint Technique, she was getting impatient from Pharaoh He's pestering, but on the surface she still had to go along with a few sentences. She was slightly distracted and didn't pay much attention to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Someone keeps staring at me. He would eventually give himself away. Before reaching the dark sanctuary, she could not let anyone know that she was not contaminated. Darkness Sanctum. The place where the King of Darkness was sealed. Girl, are you sure you really want to enter the darkness sacred region? Old Man Song's voice was filled with worry. He knew that he had no way to persuade Yiqing Luo to give up on this idea. But based on Yiqing Luo's current ability, something really happened. There was no way to escape. He still hadn't been able to cultivate a spiritual body, so he could only wait anxiously in the Azure Dew bracelet. If only he knew that this girl was such a troublemaker. Back then he should have exhausted everything to cultivate the spirit body first. Even if I don't go in, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave. Yiqing Luo replied in her heart. There was no turning back now that she had snuck into the underground forces. She had no other choice but to follow her original plan and keep moving forward. Moreover, her original intention was to take the opportunity to infiltrate the Dark Coalition and find out the location of the Dark Coalition's base. Now there was a chance to enter the Darkness Sanctuary. It was even more impossible for her to give up this opportunity. The King of Darkness was currently sealed and he did not have any strength left. If she were to do something to the Sanctuary of Darkness and ruin the King of Darkness' plan to remove the seal, it would be a heavy blow to the dark forces. This darkness sacred region. Naturally she had to go. That place is too dangerous. I'm worried that based on your current strength, you won't be able to handle it. Old Man Song naturally knew what Yiqing Luo was planning. However, there was no such plan. There was only a 1% chance. If it was really that easy to foil the King of Darkness's plan to remove the seal, then the King of Darkness wouldn't be able to do so. The dark forces would not have had the chance to turn things around. Yiqing Luo pursed her pink lips. Her slender fingers gently rubbed the profound phoenix ring on her fingertip. I'm not afraid. I believe. Xian will understand what I mean. Yiqing Luo's heart felt a trace of warmth when she thought of that purple-robed man with peerless elegance. She believed in the feelings between Zhou Xian and her. Even if she said nothing, Zhou Xian would definitely understand. Ever since she was young, she had been brainwashed into thinking that she could only rely on herself in this world. She couldn't rely on anyone. Even those old men from the Yi clan. Even the old man who taught her all kinds of ultimate skills. She could not be relied on. But, to Zhou Xian, he wanted to rely on him. Stop, stop, stop. Old man Song helplessly shook his head. This old man is worried about you. I don't want to get dog food from you. The word dog food. Old man Song had learned it from Yiqing Luo. You are still a person controlled by Pai. Don't show that kind of smile. If the people from the dark forces see it, all your plans will be ruined. Old man Song reminded him. Indeed, now was not the time to show off their affection. Yiqing Luo kept the emotions in her heart as she refocused her energy on the two people in front. Pharaoh He and Butterfly Saint Technique were still talking about something. Chapter 1668. After several twists and turns, they walked for more than an hour. Pharaoh He finally stopped at an extremely secluded back mountain in the palace. Along the way, Yiqing Luo had already formed a map of the surrounding terrain in her mind. And this secluded back mountain could be said. It was really secluded. If it wasn't for the fact that she was following behind Pharaoh He, she probably wouldn't even be able to find this place. Even if she found it, she would absolutely not link the dark sacred region with this secluded back mountain. This place was actually the dark sacred region where the King of Darkness was sealed. In order to conceal the dark sacred region, the dark forces are really going all out. Old man Song was extremely astonished. I didn't sense any profound yin-qi fluctuations in the surroundings. The dark forces were able to develop their forces till now even after the King of Darkness was sealed. And to think of ways to sneak into the Nirvana realm, this is enough to prove that the dark forces are not idiots. After hearing Old Man Song's words, Yiqing Luo also understood why the dark forces wanted to use this desolate back mountain to conceal the dark sacred region. If the dark forces met with an ambush, even if the entire clan was annihilated, at least the King of Darkness was still alive. As long as the King of Darkness was still alive, once the seal was released, their dark forces would be able to step into development once again, stepping into the peak. You also know that they are not idiots, so you better be careful. If the dark forces find out, I won't be able to save you. Hearing Yiqing Luo's tone, it was still that relaxed. Old man Song sighed helplessly. Only this lass could maintain her composure the closer they were to danger. As a saint technique, I don't have the right to learn the secret arts, so I can only send you here. Butterfly Saint Technique stopped in her tracks as she smiled at Pharaoh He. Pharaoh He grabbed Butterfly Saint Technique's little hand as he smiled. As long as Adai wants, I can teach you anything. The rules set by his lordship can't be broken. The Butterfly Saint Law patted the back of his hand coquettishly, winked and said angrily, "All right, hurry up and lead that little slut in. I can't wait to see that little slut become food for the Lord." Pharaoh He took advantage of Butterfly Saint Technique's words again. At the same time, he hinted at the Butterfly Saint Technique ambiguously. He walked towards Yiqing Luo and clasped her shoulders. Yiqing Luo was in pain, but she forcefully endured the intense pain. Pharaoh He dragged him toward the deserted back mountain. As she stepped into the rear mountain, Yiqing Luo clearly felt a cooling sensation brushing past her cheeks and body. Yiqing Luo acutely discovered that when Pharaoh He walked up the rear mountain, his fingers had already formed a hand seal. This is a barrier? Yes, this kind of barrier is different from the traditional barriers that you normally encounter. Old Man Song promptly explained, this is a kind of dark barrier, a reverse barrier. Reverse bounded domain? What the hell is this? Barriers can be divided into several types. In other words, there is a reverse barrier set up in this back mountain. If you don't have the reverse spirit formation secret technique, you won't be blocked like a traditional spirit formation when you step into the back mountain. Instead, the back mountain that you enter is truly just a back mountain. If you use the reverse spirit formation's secret technique to enter this back mountain, you will arrive at the real hidden place. Yiqing Luo nodded her head in understanding. Looked like in order to enter the dark sacred region, she needed to know about this reverse spirit formation's secret technique. Then, how should Zhou Xian use the profound phoenix ring to find her? Chapter 1669. She was forcefully dragged along by Pharaoh He for about 1 incense's time. Yiqing Luo felt that her shoulders were about to be torn apart. This old man was so gentle in front of the Butterfly Saint Technique. like a little wolf dog trying to please her. Facing her, he was so crude, not knowing how to be protective of the fairer sex. At least. Her looks were several streets ahead of the butterfly saint technique. At least. She was younger than the butterfly saint technique. Why did this old man have to target her? Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with grief and indignation. Under Pharaoh He's tugging, she entered the reverse enchantment, the real hidden place. The surroundings were strangely quiet. It was so quiet that only their footsteps could be heard. The surroundings were filled with a black fog, emitting a poisonous miasma. Between the breaths, there was an extremely thick smell of blood. The bright moon in the sky hung on the horizon, faintly discernible, but it wasn't clear. Instead, it added a strange atmosphere. Yiqing Luo's gaze finally landed on the front. That was the end of a path filled with black brambles. At the end, there was a majestic palace made of black jade stones. The palace was surrounded by 12 pillars, representing the 12 constellations. And every pillar was engraved with sealing runes. The runes on the pillars were emitting a smooth jade glow, suppressing the black fog in all directions. Other than the strange black brambles, there was not a single blade of grass around. The heavens and earth were silent, as though only Yiqing Luo and Pharaoh He were the only living people in this world. Yiqing Luo looked at the surrounding 12 pillars, then she looked at the palace in front of her. This was dark sacred region, the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. When she saw this majestic palace, Pharaoh He's hand, which was pinching Yiqing Luo's shoulder, slowly slid down. The expression on his face became extremely respectful. His entire being became more solemn. He lifted his feet and walked towards the palace. Yiqing Luo followed closely behind. The two of them, one in front and one behind, followed the brambles on the ground as they walked into the palace. A thick smell of blood assaulted their senses. It was so thick that it made them nauseous. The surrounding black fog and miasma also gradually dispersed. Pharaoh Crane did not feel the atmosphere in the palace at all. His expression was solemn and his eyes were filled with respect. With an incomparably devout heart, he walked at the front step by step. The interior of the palace was extremely spacious. The first thing he saw was a huge circular altar. Below the altar was a huge pit that occupied 2/3 of the palace. The pit was covered with a thin layer of silk cloth. Oh, that was not silk. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared intently at that silk cloth. If she wasn't wrong, it should be the thin frost formed by the 10,000-year-old ice on the 10,000-year-old ice mountain in the north of the Nirvana realm. This thin frost had lasted for tens of thousands of years. It absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. It never melts all year round. Yiqing Luo had once heard that this 10,000-year-old cold ice had the ability to preserve corpses and prevent them from rotting forever. Who would have thought that the 10,000-year frost would be in the darkness sanctuary? What was covered by the thin frost? Yiqing Luo wanted to take a closer look. Suddenly, he heard a loud thud beside his ear. Pharaoh He knelt down on the ground, facing that circular altar as he knocked his head hard onto the ground. Lass, don't be in a daze, follow suit and kneel down. Old Man Tsong immediately reminded her in her mind. Kneel down? Make her kneel down in front of the King of Darkness? Looking at Pharaoh He's devout, kneeling back view, Yiqing Luo's eyes gradually turned cold. This place. There was only Pharaoh He alone. The King of Darkness was in the seal. If she were to kill Pharaoh He now, then she would ruin the King of Darkness's plan to remove the seal. Chapter 1670. Just as Yiqing Luo was thinking of a series of plans, suddenly he heard an unfamiliar voice that sounded like rustling leaves. Did you fail? Yiqing Luo felt a chill down her spine. This voice was just 3 simple words, but it made Yiqing Luo feel a terrifying aura. Yiqing Luo instinctively reacted. This voice. It was the voice of the King of Darkness. Other than the King of Darkness, there was no other presence in the dark sacred region. Wasn't the King of Darkness sealed? Why could he still speak? Had she guessed wrongly? How could that be the voice of the King of Darkness? Numerous thoughts filled her mind. The next moment, Pharaoh He had already used his actions to express everything. Pharaoh He respectfully knelt on the ground as his voice trembled. My lord, I'm sorry. Sorry. It's my incompetence to let a young lass destroy the spirit assimilation array. Indeed, that voice came from the King of Darkness. The person who was sealed could still speak. The King of Darkness is a being that roams above the lower realm and below the upper realm, not belonging to the four realms. Even if the King of Darkness is sealed, the consciousness of the King of Darkness still exists. Old Man Song's tone was extremely solemn and solemn. Lass, the power of the King of Darkness is far beyond your imagination. Even if the consciousness of the King of Darkness can't stay awake for too long, but, to deal with you, it's more than enough. Yiqing Luo was stunned. In the darkness, there seemed to be a pair of icy cold eyes staring at her without blinking. A chill spread from her feet all the way to the top of her head. Her entire body seemed to have been frozen into an ice cube. She congealed her senses and tried her best to maintain her state of being under control. My lord, the reason for my failure is because of Yiqing Luo that... Pharaoh, he anxiously wanted to say that there might be someone from the lower realm behind Yiqing Luo helping her. But before he could finish his words, he was sent flying by a powerful force, crashing heavily onto the stone wall of the palace. With a dong, he rolled down from the stone wall. Pharaoh, he clutched his chest as he spat out a mouthful of blood. A failure is a failure. Don't try to find excuses for your failure. A cold and sinister voice rang out, carrying with it an obvious killing intent. Spare me, Lord. Spare me. I know I was wrong. I won't fail again. Pharaoh Crane's plea did not arouse the slightest bit of sympathy from the King of Darkness. That powerful force came wave after wave. It continuously swept up Pharaoh Crane's body. He was flung around in all directions. Under the punishment of the King of Darkness, several of Pharaoh's bones were broken, and blood was flowing out of his mouth. After an unknown period of time, perhaps the King of Darkness was tired. Perhaps it was because he saw Pharaoh Crane lying on the ground on his last breath. He only needed one more strike to take Pharaoh Crane's life. The majestic aura that lingered in the surroundings suddenly dissipated. Yiqing Luo remained standing at the same spot, her body tensed up, totally unaffected by this imposing manner. The target was the King of Darkness. Pharaoh Crane was riddled with scars from the fall. He didn't dare to order Yiqing Luo to bear it for him. Yiqing Luo didn't hear Old Man Song's reminder. Pharaoh, he had used a secret art to control her. Chapter 1671. Pharaoh Crane's entire body was filled with an excruciating pain. His body felt as though it was being cut by numerous saw teeth. His face was pale as the pain continued to stimulate his consciousness. But he didn't dare to dodge or resist at all. Useless trash, what's the use of this king keeping a bunch of trash like you? King of Darkness's voice was hoarse as it was filled with a terrifying eeriness. Pharaoh Crane laid on the ground as he panted heavily. His face was filled with blood stains. His four limbs had lost the ability to move under King of Darkness's violent attacks. But when he heard King of Darkness's voice, Pharaoh Crane forced himself to hold on as he slowly shifted his body into a kneeling position. His voice was trembling as he opened his mouth in terror. Overlord. Overlord, please forgive me although I failed in the mission of the spirit assimilation array, but I brought Yiqing Luo back. Saying that, he raised his head with difficulty as he looked at Yiqing Luo, who was standing stiffly by the side, not moving at all. For a long time King of Darkness didn't say a word. It was just that the chill in the surroundings continued to spread. Even if it was Yiqing Luo, her skin had already started to break out with goosebumps under this chill. Finally, King of Darkness's voice rang. Yiqing Luo, that vessel? Yes, it's the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade's vessel. Pharaoh Crane immediately responded, as long as there's profound chi nurtured by the vessel, I can also speed up my lord's unsealing speed. Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade? Vessel. When Yiqing Luo heard Pharaoh Crane's words, her heart thumped extremely quickly. Could it be her heaven-defying Profound Heart Jade? What kind of Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade was it? And she was this Profound Heart Jade's vessel? Using her own body to nurture this Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade's vessel? Why didn't she understand the meaning behind Pharaoh Crane's words? You bunch of trash do have some use. King of Darkness sneered softly. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that there was a pair of icy cold, terrifying gaze falling onto her. She was unable to sense the exact direction of that gaze. Or perhaps she felt that there were people staring at her from all directions. That gaze was glued onto her. It made her have a nauseous impulse. Yiqing Luo knew. The King of Darkness was sizing her up. She couldn't move, her heart couldn't beat fast, and her breathing couldn't be rushed. The King of Darkness was not Pharaoh Crane. Any small problem could expose the fact that she was not being controlled by Tao Wu. What are you waiting for? Bring the container over to this king. Could it be that you want this king to do it himself? As soon as the King of Darkness's cold voice rang out, a loud sound rang out. Pharaoh He, who was kneeling on the ground, was once again sent flying backward. Pharaoh Crane rolled a few times on the ground. Enduring the intense pain, he stumbled and crawled towards Yiqing Luo's direction. What are you waiting for? Go over to his lordship's side. Pharaoh He leaned close to Yiqing Luo as he commanded in a low voice. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened as she lifted her feet and walked towards that circular altar. Pharaoh Crane took the opportunity to chant a secret technique and performed a simple healing and pain relief on himself before catching up. The closer they got to the altar, the thicker the stench of blood permeated Yiqing Luo's nose. The smell of blood. The smell was even more pungent and unpleasant than when she was in the flame lair and the ground was littered with corpses. Chapter 1672. My lord, the last time I obtained the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, I could only use it to sense the location of the vast water divine weapon. This time, with this vessel, I will definitely be able to maximize the effects of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. Pharaoh Crane cautiously approached the altar, not forgetting to flatter it in a low voice. Have you found the whereabouts of the other azure water divine weapons? The King of Darkness scoffed. Pharaoh He's face turned pale and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. How could he have forgotten? Even though he had obtained the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, the Azure Dew Ring was still taken away by Yiqing Luo in the end. If it wasn't for his lord having foresight and letting him use a secret technique first to tamper with the Profound Heart Jade, he wouldn't have been able to do so. I'm afraid. They totally had no idea how to deal with Yiqing Luo. The dark forces were losing again and again. All of them had fallen onto Yiqing Luo. He was still mentioning the vast water divine artifact. Wasn't that courting death? Pharaoh He's body trembled and his voice trembled as he said, My lord, don't worry. After this subordinate transmits the mystical energy within the vessel to my lord, I will immediately send the people of the Crane faction to search for the whereabouts of the other azure water divine weapons. If you're going to search for the whereabouts of the divine artifact, how is this vessel going to nurture the profound energy needed to break my seal? The King of Darkness sneered. Pharaoh Crane was drenched in cold sweat. Bean-sized beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. His body trembled in fear. Their conversation made Yiqing Luo even more puzzled. Was it her Profound Heart Jade, or the radar that was searching for the azure water divine weapon? She suddenly remembered that last time in the tomb of the Ling King, the people from the dark forces had used her Profound Heart Jade to open the barrier of the azure water ring. Her Profound Heart Jade. Did it have any special connection to the azure water divine artifact? She remembered that the azure water ring seemed to be calling out to her at that time. It was as if the azure water ring was originally a divine tool that belonged to her. Why was the King of Darkness collecting the azure water divine weapon? Moreover, it seemed like he was determined to get it. To the dark forces, the azure water divine artifact. What kind of crucial role did it play? Cough cough, little girl. What you should be worried about right now isn't the matter of the vast water divine artifact. Old Man Song reminded her helplessly. If your profound energy is completely sucked out by Pharaoh He and transferred to the seal of the sacred region, you will lose all your profound energy and become a cripple. Yiqing Luo laughed secretly in her heart. Did you think that I would give Pharaoh He this chance? Are you going to use force? Old Man Song hurriedly tried to dissuade him. This is the territory of the dark forces. If the King of Darkness knows that your Profound Heart Jade isn't contaminated by the profound Yin Qi, you won't be able to leave the darkness sanctuary with your strength. The King of Darkness won't be able to remain conscious for long. Furthermore, he used up all his energy to punish Pharaoh He. How much energy does he have left? Yiqing Luo asked calmly. She noticed. The King of Darkness was determined to kill Pharaoh He. However, when Pharaoh He said that she, as a vessel, should be transferred to the King of Darkness, she felt a chill run down her spine. The King of Darkness' killing intent had clearly weakened. The King of Darkness needed power. Even if it was sealed, he still needed power. Before entering the Darkness Sanctuary, The butterfly saint technique had mentioned that the King of Darkness would awaken for a short period of time. Short period of time. These two words meant that the time that the King of Darkness would be awake for wasn't considered long. Or rather, the reason why he could obtain a short period of consciousness. Chapter 1673. Which meant, even if Yiqing Luo revealed that she wasn't contaminated, the King of Darkness couldn't do anything to her. Old Man Song was stunned as he burst out laughing. What a good lass, Luo, your thoughts are so meticulous. I finally understand the reason why you insist on following Pharaoh He into the dark sacred region. This lass. She would never do anything that she wasn't sure of. Even if she was in danger. She had already planned all her escape routes. She was indeed the owner of the Azure Dew bracelet. Just as Yiqing Luo and Old Man Song were conversing, she and Pharaoh He were already standing on the altar. Pharaoh He looked at the stiff young lady who was standing in the middle of the altar. A sinister glint flashed past his eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that this young lady was the divine phoenix profound jade's vessel, he would definitely strangle her to death. Suppressing the hatred and anger towards Yiqing Luo, Pharaoh He walked over to her. My lord, I will start the incantation now. Pharaoh He grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist and pressed her against the altar wall, which was filled with complicated patterns. Suddenly, a bone-piercing chill came from his back. A disgusting, indescribable feeling of disgust and fear surged up her heart. That was the feeling of the King of Darkness. On the wall of the altar. It was the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. This was the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. Pharaoh He raised her hand, and after pressing it against the wall, he pulled her other hand and pressed it against the wall. But when he pressed down on the other hand, suddenly she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Her body was like a broken kite as it flew out horizontally. He was flung out of the altar and landed on the ground. Yiqing Luo used all her strength for this kick. That kick caused Pharaoh He's internal organs to feel like they had been shattered. His throat felt sweet as he spat out a mouthful of blood. You. Pharaoh He trembled as he raised his head to look at the altar. But he discovered that Yiqing Luo was standing by the side of the altar, looking at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Pharaoh He's eyes were filled with shock. You. Don't you can't even speak properly, just save some energy. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled upwards as she leapt down the altar. Then he stomped on Pharaoh Crane's chest. Another mouthful of blood gushed out from Pharaoh Crane's mouth. It's fine if you can't speak. Whatever you want to ask, I'll answer it for you. Yiqing Luo gave a light smile as she lowered her body slightly, looking down at Pharaoh He's face, which was filled with terror. You want to know why I attacked you, right? Pharaoh Crane's pupils constricted. The moment he got agitated, his internal organs tightened as well. It was so painful that he couldn't help but curl up and twitch. Pharaoh He, don't doubt your own secret arts. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. I don't have the ability to break free from your secret arts control. Pharaoh Crane shook his head. If it wasn't for the fact that she had broken free from his secret technique, she would have died. How could Yiqing Luo possibly regain her consciousness? Because, from the beginning to the end, I have never been controlled by you. Yiqing Luo's fingers gently touched her chest. In my profound jade heart, I used the dark secret arts to hide the profound yin qi just to wait for this moment. But unfortunately, your plan has failed once again. Pharaoh He's pupils suddenly widened. His eyes were filled with astonishment, as though he was surprised that Yiqing Luo knew all these. Yiqing Luo smiled like a flower. Pharaoh He's face was as white as paper. The atmosphere froze in an instant. Chapter 1674. Hearing King of Darkness's words, Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked towards the altar, which was filled with patterns on the wall. Her pink lips rose slightly as she said in an evil and frivolous tone, then you have to come out from inside first. The surrounding mysterious yin qi as well as the impending chill of a storm suddenly deepened. King of Darkness was enraged. He was enraged. Yiqing Luo smiled even more joyfully. Between her brows was a bright and enchanting smile. King of Darkness, don't try to threaten me. Her voice was calm without any fluctuation of emotions. You who have been sealed. Your remaining energy is probably not enough to keep me in the dark sacred region. So confident? King of Darkness laughed coldly. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with a sliver of arrogance. Then why don't King of Darkness give it a try? to use your last bit of energy to test me. Or to stop me to destroy your plan to remove the seal. Silence made this treacherous atmosphere become more and more strange. King of Darkness didn't speak. Yiqing Luo's heart slowly calmed down. Her guess was right. King of Darkness didn't have much energy left. She had this divine phoenix profound heart jade. So King of Darkness didn't dare to make a move easily. After all, King of Darkness didn't know much about her ability. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about King of Darkness's silence. She turned her head back as her lips curled into a smile. Her eyes were filled with a sharp glint as she fixed her gaze on Pharaoh He, who was lying on the ground, unable to move. Pharaoh He, do you want to live on? She smiled lightly as her tone was gentle. Pharaoh He's pupils contracted as he stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. She smiled slightly. Your life to me is not that important. If I want to strangle you, it's much easier than strangling an ant. Pharaoh He was so angry that his heart was in pain. His entire body trembled. His internal organs were trembling as though they were being torn apart. Answer my question obediently and I guarantee that you will be safe. Out of the dark sacred region. Yiqing Luo suddenly bent down as her slender fingers suddenly clasped onto Pharaoh He's neck. Her fingers tightened, the bones of her fingers were slender and distinct. Pharaoh He's pale face instantly turned purplish-green. Pharaoh He's pupils dilated as he struggled to break free from Yiqing Luo's fingers. But his body was riddled with wounds and he didn't have the strength to struggle. You don't want to die, right? Yiqing Luo could see the desire to live from Pharaoh He's eyes. He wanted to ask the King of Darkness for help. But he couldn't say a word. Yiqing Luo smiled as she loosened the strength on his neck as her other hand landed on his face as she gently patted him. It wasn't easy to get to where you are today. How would you bear to die so easily? Don't worry. As long as you answer my questions obediently, not only will I guarantee your safety, but I will also guarantee that you will obtain the sacred butterfly technique. He mentioned the butterfly saint technique. Pharaoh He's eyes flashed with a glint. Yiqing Luo took a panoramic view of his emotional changes. Then she continued, think about it. If I send you out and I stay in the darkness sanctuary to fight the King of Darkness, who will benefit in the end? The glint in Pharaoh He's eyes grew brighter. If Yiqing Luo and the King of Darkness were to fight, the current King of Darkness might not be Yiqing Luo's match. If the King of Darkness was completely sealed, wouldn't the beneficiaries be the 4 great saint techniques and the 4 great pharaohs? By then he would pretend to be under the King of Darkness's orders. He would control all the dark forces in his hands. Chapter 1675. This bottle of medicine can make the butterfly saint skill willingly to follow you. Yiqing Luo touched the profound phoenix ring and took out a white jade bottle. Under this treacherous light, that white jade bottle shone with a dazzling luster. Pharaoh He's gaze fell directly on the white jade bottle. He heard that Yiqing Luo was an alchemist. It was extremely normal for Yiqing Luo to be able to refine a pill that could make a lady willingly follow her. What do you want to know? Pharaoh He finally surrendered. Yiqing Luo's lips curled slightly. What is the divine phoenix profound heart jade? What secret is hidden in this profound heart jade of mine? This. Pharaoh He's face turned pale as though he didn't expect Yiqing Luo to ask this question. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Why? Not willing to say? No. Pharaoh He hurriedly opened his mouth, his eyes filled with panic. But this matter is extremely complicated. Maybe you don't understand. Yiqing Luo continued to raise her brows as she softly hummed a note. But it made Pharaoh He's scalp go numb. Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. It's. Pharaoh He looked towards the altar in horror, only to discover that the King of Darkness didn't move at all. Then he looked at Yiqing Luo's beautiful face with a light smile. He gritted his teeth and replied, Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade is the most noble profound heart jade in this world. There is only one of it in this world. Most noble? How much is the difference between the purple grade profound heart jade and the profound heart jade behind you? Yiqing Luo asked again. Purple grade profound heart jade? There's no comparison at all. This is only because you people from the lower realms think that the purple grade profound heart jade is the highest grade profound heart jade. In the upper realms there are a lot of them. But the preciousness of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, even the strongest person in the god realm covets it. Yiqing Luo remained silent for a moment. She had heard of the lower realms and the upper realms more than once. This Nirvana realm was the lower realm. Then the upper realms. Was it referring to those legendary cultivators who were brought to a higher realm? He was worried that Yiqing Luo wouldn't understand. Pharaoh he explained in great detail once more. The upper realm was divided into 3 realms. In the lower realm, the upper realm was called the upper 3 realms. The upper 3 realms were divided into the earth realm, heaven realm, and God realm. The God world was the strongest plane of existence. Any random passerby there, if placed in the next plane, could set off a reign of terror and break the balance of the heavenly Tao. And the profound heart jade that even the strongest people in the God world coveted. It was clear how precious the divine phoenix profound heart jade was. After Yiqing Luo heard all these, her heart was filled with astonishment. Her profound heart jade was actually so precious. It was no wonder that the King of Darkness had thought of all sorts of ways to dig away her profound heart jade. Then what do you mean by vessel? Yiqing Luo didn't forget how the King of Darkness addressed her. Pharaoh Crane was no longer as bashful as before and answered straightforwardly. Not everyone can control the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Once an ordinary profound heart jade is dug out, a profound practitioner can absorb its profound energy. But the divine phoenix heart jade was different. When we obtain the divine phoenix profound heart jade, we can't even unleash 1% of its power. And you are the divine phoenix profound heart jade's vessel, the energy absorber. Only your body can nurture the divine phoenix profound heart jade, and from there produce an endless supply of profound energy. It was indeed like this. Chapter 1676. Since transmigrating till now, Yiqing Luo had a question in her heart. But this question the people from the Yi family would definitely not give her an answer. As the young matriarch of Three Springs sect, she had an enviable profound jade heart. Why was it that she was trash without any profound chi? And after she transmigrated to this continent, she used the dragon god cauldron to refine the marrow cleansing pill, which changed this body's physique. Then, if her profound jade heart was the divine phoenix profound jade heart, why couldn't her original body cultivate? Then how could it give birth to an endless stream of profound chi? Yiqing Luo. You can rest assured, although the divine phoenix profound jade heart is something everyone in the upper realm wants, but other than you, no one else can bring out the effect of the divine phoenix profound jade heart. Seeing that Yiqing Luo didn't speak, Pharaoh he thought that she was worried that her divine phoenix profound jade heart would be discovered by the people from the upper realm. And your current strength is not enough to bring out the maximum power of the divine phoenix profound jade heart. The people from the upper realm will not find out about the birth of the divine phoenix profound jade heart. Then how did you know? Yiqing Luo smiled faintly. The ridiculousness of the cold glare made Pharaoh he tremble. This is what his lordship said, we are only following orders. Pharaoh he was so scared that his face turned pale as he hurriedly replied. King of Darkness? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes and glanced at the seal on the altar. A trace of suspicion flashed past her eyes. But she didn't continue to investigate. Instead, her lips curled as she looked at Pharaoh he with a light smile. What do you want to use my profound jade heart to collect the azure water divine weapon for? Pharaoh he's pupils contracted continuously. For a long time he couldn't open his mouth to answer. Obviously Yiqing Luo's question touched the scope of his resistance. But the more Pharaoh he refused to answer the question, the more Yiqing Luo wanted to know. What was the use of the azure water divine weapon to the dark forces? Pharaoh he cared so much about the azure water divine weapon. What secret was the azure water divine weapon hiding? Yiqing Luo's fingertips drew out a sharp dagger from the fan handle. She bent down and placed the cold dagger on Pharaoh he's face. She smiled and said in a gentle tone, Pharaoh Crane, I'm not a very patient person. If you insist on wasting your time here, my dagger will not have eyes. Pharaoh he's face turned even paler. He tensed his body, trying to avoid the dagger in Yiqing Luo's hand. But when he moved, the sharp blade pierced into the skin on his face. A streak of blood oozed out from his face. A piercing pain caused Pharaoh he's hair to stand on end. He knew that Yiqing Luo wasn't joking. If he continued to hesitate, the next place that Yiqing Luo's dagger would slash open would be his neck. Pharaoh Crane's entire body was trembling. It was unknown whether it was because of anger or fear. It was only at the last moment when Yiqing Luo impatiently moved her dagger. He gritted his teeth and squeezed each word out from between his teeth. The Azure Water Divine Weapon is the highest position in the upper realms, God Realms Lord God Emperor's personal accessory 10,000 years ago and is tainted with Lord God Emperor's power. Rumors say that Lord God Emperor passed away 10,000 years ago and was buried in the God Emperor's tomb. And the Azure Water Divine Weapon is the guide to find the God Emperor's tomb. Speaking of this, Pharaoh He's voice paused for a moment. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. What motive does the dark forces have to find the God Emperor's tomb?